Right, okay, shall we get going?
Yeah.
First point of business is the point of vice chairman to the committee. I think that should be Peter. I've got a seconder.
Yeah, I'll second that.
You're in, Pete?
Yeah.
There you go. You do the happy dance now? Any apologies, Jan? Doesn't
No
look like it.
apologies,
You've
no.
done very well tonight. You do this bit on the declarations of interest.
You do it all. Yeah,
yeah.
declaration, no, any declarations of interest.
I haven't, no. Right, can we read the minutes of the previous meeting?
Yeah, I'm happy with them. Could you initial each page? So if you could initial the bottom of each page. And then third page is sign. Sign up, sign date. And sign the pink paper ones, the new closed session ones. Thank you.
There you go. Sorted. Right, on to planning applications. We've all seen these planning applications.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't get a proposer seconder for the minute. I'll propose them.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. Do we have anything to say about the planning applications before we go through them? Anything? Well, I mean, look, they're all straightforward except for one as far as I can see, so if you want to just go through the erection, there's a lot of this going to be happening from now on, the erection of single dwellings on plots. You can see it's plot 4, so there's obviously another 3, there's I think one more plot 1 as well. Because of the restrictions that will be put on, we think, some mass developments. We're going to see a lot of smaller developments now, I would think. 7, 8 houses at a time. This one's going to be 4. It's going to happen. There's nothing we can do about it. Looked at the plans. I've seen the comments, and there's nothing wrong with them. To be honest with you.
No, the only concern I've got about that, and it's something I've seen in Crowland Parish as well, is by putting lots of smaller developments in, they get away from the need to actually support those developments with infrastructure. And that seems to be one of the biggest complaints that comes back from these small developments, that you've now got 40, 50 houses over a couple of years, but there's no extension of the schools, there's no public transport, there's no shops. And it literally is just a housing estate with no other facilities. So maybe we need to be mindful of that going forward, just to, when we see a collection of small developments, make the comment that, this needs to be seen as a round rather than individual applications.
Yeah. I mean, we've got the first one is erection dwelling plot 4, Longfield House, Northlands Lane, Norwich, and there's a second one there as well.
So I guess a good question on back there would be, we've got no objection to that permission. However, can you advise how many other plots on that site are to be developed? So if it's plot 4 out of 274, it gives a bit of a scale, doesn't it?
Yeah. Anyone know Northlands Lane, how big it is, how open it is? Is there plenty of room?
Yeah, it's where an old farm building was.
Right.
And it's, it's only a narrow roadway, but there is, I think the plan is certainly 4 on there, by the look of it, because they've got the footings in already, or they're digging the footings. And then it looks out towards that other development that connects into, which one is it? The one off Chestnut Avenue, what's it called? I can't remember. The one that we discussed last time, where they were saying about the access and this, that and the other. But all of those plots of land have always been earmarked for development because they've always had an access road put in when they built the first one. So there's, the plan was always there to do it. They've got plenty of space around them. There is no issue. Like I say, the only thing you can comment is that it's if it's the same developer putting in lots of little ones, then you need to think of it as a whole, but I don't think they'll be putting in for any more.
No, I don't think so either, John.
I think also some of the developers are getting a bit cute, because if they do them in small portions, they get away with the 106.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I mean, if you're in business,
Of course,
Yeah, exactly. You can do it.
It's called path of least resistance,
Oh, yeah.
the path of maximum profit, and that's exactly what to do. Anyone will do it, but we need to be mindful of and represent people to flag that risk up.
Yeah. And we do have an appeal on one of them, which there's nothing we can do, so we can't comment on an appeal anyway. There's no room to comment on it, which is a bit unfortunate. So there's no point in discussing that one. Let's do one that's, one that I'm concerned about, and has raised most of the concern, is the 81 houses at Chaffinch. There's been a lot of consultation with the public on this. There's been a lot of objections by our county and district councillors. Obviously the NHS have come crashing in again with the same thing they did on the last big one, so Battlefields. So John Hayes has even come in, he's written a letter, concerned about it because, you know, we've already got 900 homes granted in Holbeach. Now, from what I understand from South Holland, the government target is 954 for the whole of the South Holland area per year. And we've got 900 in Holbeach. Now, I'll have to check that for definite, but I know that was the case last year. So there has been big concern about access here. And there's been a lot of complaints from the residents, etc. We've seen, I don't know if you've read Tracy Carter's reports, I spoke to her the other day about it. Yes, drainage is one, it's always one around that area, we all know this. But the big problem is the access. And that's what most of the residents complain about. And what do we do about this one? Any suggestions?
Again, I don't, you know, there's lots of reasons why individually we may not wish to see this, but there is no reason in planning law why you can actually object to it. And the access, really, again, the people that bought in Balmoral Way knew full well when they bought those houses that there was going to be development going off of it. And they may not like it, but they knew it when they bought the buildings. And you can't, you know, it's,
This is
you
always
go
the
round
problem.
and round in circles.
Yeah.
I mean,
My only comment that I think we should be making, because we can't object to it, because as a council, everybody has had the opportunity to give their opinion, and we are not the majority, so we can't make that decision on behalf of council. We can't say we object, can we? Because there's not enough of us sitting around the table, so we can't do that. But what we can do is in the comments bit at the end, so just put in that, you know, we have concerns again around overstretching the infrastructure, etc., and that we would like to see that the full quota of affordable housing is this time actually kept to, because the amount of times they reduce that affordable housing, once they've got their planning permission, a bit further down the line they say, oh, but it's not viable. Sorry, but it's going to have to be viable.
that's what needs to be put a stop to,
Yeah,
you know.
And it
so I
happens
think
on
that's
every
the only
development.
thing we should say.
That really does happen on every development.
It does.
It really does.
And I think we need to put a marker down and say, you know, we've noticed this happening on every single application that this particular person's been putting in, and as the vast majority of people in this area are looking for affordable housing, they're not looking for a big 4-bedroom house, are they?
No.
We need to be seeing that they are going to provide that amount of affordable housing. If it's 25%, it's 25%.
The thing is, we have to go, and you're right, you're absolutely right, we have to look at it under law rather than emotion.
Yeah.
Whereas Tracy's got a bit emotional about it because she's visited the area and she's had a lot of discussions with the residents, and obviously people have written to John Hayes, so he has to be on their side, that's what his job is. But we have to sit here and think, what are the real reasons? What can we do within the law? And all we can is make comments. That's it.
So,
If you just make comments on
I was going to say, I think we've got a strong case when it comes to the infrastructure, because it's difficult enough with the 2 surgeries in Holbeach. If you get too many houses, it's not just the new people that suffer, but it's everybody in the vicinity
Yeah.
that's going to suffer.
But coming back to that, Evelyn, the whole thing with the 106 agreement is that if those houses are not built, then that money is not going to health, so therefore you're not going to get the development of your, it's the cart before the horse, right? You've got to get the development before you can get that money pumped into your
But I mean,
health service. That's the problem.
even when it was suggested that 106 money would help to provide a new medical centre, but as we know, the 2 doctor surgeries don't get on, and they wouldn't work together. But if you had a purpose-built medical centre that could offer more facilities, then it would be beneficial.
So again, what happened when Kings got their last lot of planning permission down Damgate? They actually gave the health authority a piece of land to build a health centre. And what did they do? They put it on the market to sell it because they said there was no need for it. So they've been given a piece of land to provide that. So if we're arguing that there is a need for it, and yet they're selling a piece of land saying there is no need for it, you haven't got a hope in hell of winning your argument.
That's where it's wrong, because if they've been given the bit of land, they should not have the authority to go out and sell that land. That was earmarked and given to them for a purpose. And if they decide that they don't want to use it, it should have been given back to the authorities.
And that's what's happened. So.
Yeah, that is what's happened. NHS has sold that bit of land off.
Yeah. So
It all
you,
comes down to the contract of sale, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Should have had a
it
provision
should have
in.
been in there, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when you get buildings that are built through public donations, and then along comes the council and decides to close it down and sell it off. It wasn't provided by the council, it was given by public donations.
The good thing that come out of this, there is a health centre in the offing, and the food enterprise zone is going to produce so many jobs. I was over there with the head of strategic property the other day at the food enterprise zone, saw the plans for it. It's going to be incredible when it's built. Which now the 2 things there, health and jobs, and that's what people are moaning about these days.
Yeah.
But they've been provided, and it's going to put Holbeach on the map in a massive, massive way.
But then if you're going to have that, then you've got to provide the housing for people to live here, else they're not going to come and work here, because they're not going to want to keep commuting.
No.
So therefore, you're in a catch-22. We as a public, or the people that are already here are saying, oh, but we don't want this because it's going to ruin our nice little town. But we've got to look to the future and look to what our young people are going to do if we don't develop our town. They're going to leave.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all very well having this emotional response of saying, oh, we don't want all this housing. But every time we build new housing, what happens? It's sold within next to no time.
I know.
So there's obviously a need for it,
Yeah.
as it will be sold. So, you know, we've got to get the benefits from the new housing instead of looking at the negative of it. We've got to fight to get those benefits that we want for the town, and that is about us working with the higher authorities to actually say, this is what we need in our town, not just what you're telling us we need, this is what we want, and we don't do enough of that.
No, we don't. I think we should now, as a planning committee, engage far more with South Holland. I really do, because you know they're the ones that are pulling the strings here, and Lincolnshire above them.
I mean, the thing was that the government said that local authorities should work closely with parish councils. But as we know, we can put our input in, but does the district council listen?
No, of course they don't. But we've got to then push harder. And really have. We've got to be more representative.
It's all about relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
And getting that relationship with districts is key.
And
In the initiatives I've done with districts, if
Yeah.
you get them on side,
Yeah.
they actually are willing to help.
Yeah.
But it has to be a partnership rather than a robust, you know.
But I mean, in the past, Holbeach, Spalding District Council had a terrible reputation, their planning department, and a lot of companies who would have liked to have come here said, no way could they deal with South Holland Planning Department. So they went elsewhere, you know, so they're not doing themselves any favours.
Right, okay, well, we've done that one, Jeff, and we know there's a lot of emotional involvement in this, but there's nothing we can do about it. It's going to happen.
Yeah, so really on that, I don't think we started off there with access infrastructure, access particular. In the comments we put back, are we able to, you know, suggest or recommend that that is looked at as a one of the key priorities?
Yeah,
in terms
we
of that?
will do, yes. I've looked at the comments from Tracy Carter and Councillor Bigelike. Obviously, I mean, our MP is paid to blow a horn for the locals rather than actually look at the plans and find something wrong with them, which he hasn't done. But yeah, we'll just make the comments that we can make, and that's all we can do. It's just as the comments that are already there, but we won't get any support from it from South Holland. And I do believe that will be passed. I really do.
So we can't afford not to, because if they refuse it and there is no reason under planning law, there's going to be an appeal put in and they're going to lose. So they're not going to refuse it, and that is what you're up against. They are not going to risk going to appeal unless they've got a very, very good case. So it's...
Is it worth
never gonna
keeping John Hayes in the loop as regards to that one? So that we've got him in our corner when it comes to like medical services, etc.
Yeah, I've got a dialogue with John Hayes about other things, so yeah, I'm just going to turn my phone off, apologies. I apologise, I'm wearing a mask because I've got a bit of an infection and I don't want to die.
Can I clarify then, for the development of 81 dwellings on Chaffinch Way, its comment, the comment would be to secure the number of affordable housing and concerns over access.
Concern over access and everyone calls it infrastructure. Infrastructure covers too much. I always call it facilities, mainly the doctors and things like that.
I think also, could we not also stress that we're concerned that at a later stage the developer may reduce the amount of affordable housing.
That's what I just
I think
said
that
then.
should be something that we should highlight, that we're not happy with the almost common practice now.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens every time, doesn't it? Right, is that it for the planning applications? Anyone else got any comments?
So the erection of, there's 3 erection of detached houses in Northern's Lane. What are your proposed responses for those? No objection?
No objections.
No objection.
Right, I'm sorry, to fill this in as I go. And then you've got small extension to existing property.
No objection.
No objection or support?
Well,
You can only do no objection because we haven't got enough people saying support, have we? Saying
An appeal for 6 eco houses, Cranmore Lane.
we can't.
nothing we can do. We can't even make a comment.
No
because
objection,
I looked at it
okay.
today. No, you can't tick the comments box.
Okay, that's it. So, can I have a proposer and a seconder for those?
I'll propose it.
Seconder, please.
Yeah.
Has everybody agreed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, on the properties. Telephone box.
Yeah. Everybody seen the bits that have come through today as well?
Yeah.
Probably not all.
Gist of it is they're looking for, they've now got to go to district, haven't they, to make sure that there are no objections from their side, that we adopt it, and that the public are not concerned about using the facility of a playground. That's where we're at. And once it's gone through that process, then it's on to the next side of it. And so really what we need to do is decide what use we're going to have for the phone box, because I believe, because it's listed, we're going to need to do planning.
Right.
Oh.
But I think we need to discuss that with district and just see whether there is any way around that, because obviously it would be a change of use rather than anything else, but it is listed. So we just need to make sure that what we're going to want to use it for is an acceptable use, as we won't be able to progress it.
A lot of the phone boxes now, they're changing the lettering at the top from phone box to defibrillator, and I think most district councils are in favour of it. If we did get one, we would have to pencil in the precept the cost of maintaining it, because you have to check it for the batteries, and the pads, etc., have to be serviced every year.
Yeah. We have had an offer from Chosen
Chosen,
to purchase and look after the defibrillator, and also to clean and look after the phone box.
Brilliant.
That's what they're saying, but then again, that, yes, it's great and it would be fantastic use of it, and you know, I've got no problem with it, but obviously ultimately the full responsibility comes back to us. So if Chosen were to go and no longer be in existence, then it is us. So it's something we've got to be mindful of.
Yeah. The reason I say that is because a lot of people have been donating the defibrillators, but then when it comes to the servicing and the backup, they sort of step back and say, well, I gave you the defibrillator, get on with it.
I think we just would need to go back to them and clarify exactly what they are prepared to sign up to. If it is just providing it, then obviously we need to budget that for next year in a precept and ongoing costs.
Because otherwise, I mean, it's pointless having them there, because somebody might want to use them sometime, and
It's useless.
waste of time. And some defibrillator companies are willing to do training, but most defibrillators talk you through it anyway. They're quite easy to use.
So unless anybody's got any other suggestions for use of the phone box, then that would be my suggestion that we put forward, that we go down that route, because it is something that would be of use, because the nearest other one is at the co-op.
Are you going to propose that?
I'm proposing that,
I'll
yeah.
second it. There we go.
Everybody agreed?
Yep.
I mean, there's a million other uses for it, of course, but I think that's the one that brings the best value and benefit to the parish.
The thing is, if Chosen stop doing it, we'll find someone else, you know, hopefully, on the left hand us.
Yeah.
Right, next on the list is this emergency planning subcommittee again. Have we got any further on this, James? Anyone else
We
piped in?
had a member of the public at the Fulham Council meeting who stepped forward to say they'd be happy to work with us.
Good.
But we do need somebody, because we do need to put something in. We've got everything ready to go here.
Do we need 2 or 3?
I guess if it's a subcommittee, we could run it with 2, couldn't we? Because they've got to always report back.
I was going to say, could I make a suggestion that we get the man from South Holland to actually come and address the council meeting?
It's the person at South Holland. I keep being passed around. I don't know. I think I might know now who it is.
Well,
but
I've got his contacts.
It all comes from LCC Fire Service.
Yeah, no, I've got his contact at home, so I'll let you have it.
I think that would be more useful though
It would
to
be.
come and address
Yeah.
the subcommittee and not full council, because full council don't need to sit through although it's very interesting, we need the subcommittee to run with it and get things up and running, so they need to have that conversation with him, I would suggest.
I just thought it might be an idea, because if you get somebody in to come and talk about it, and especially when you're wanting public to become involved as well, it lets them have a bit more of an idea of what they're going to be involved in. not to put them off, but the fact that they then see where everything comes together. You know, it can be very, very, very beneficial.
Thing is, though, we need someone else to go on the subcommittee.
Sorry?
We need somebody else to go on the subcommittee as well, don't we? From the council. Has it been put out to full council?
It was, yes.
No one.
Nobody was interested. So probably if 2 people here, plus a member of the public.
I mean, I know obviously John's got his other things going on at the minute, but he did do the flood wardens training. He would be a good person to be part of the subcommittee, I would have thought, because he's got that at least a bit of knowledge moving forward. And then really you need somebody that has got time to organise, don't you really? Could we put it back onto the agenda for the full council again?
Try and shame
And just sort of say, look, we just need two volunteers from the council to start running with this.
It's an important point you bring up there as well. It's a case of, you also need, when you're doing that, to set an expectation of the level of involvement.
Yeah.
If it is going to, it's time to facilitate things. People that work 9 to 5, it's not going to fit
No.
properly what they're doing.
It's more, I mean, initially it's about getting the plan set up and getting the contacts. Once that's done, then your job's done really, isn't it? Apart from if it's an
Of
emergency.
course, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about getting that organised, and you need somebody that is hands-on with being able to go out and talk to people and get people on board and bring them in, which is John, pretty much, isn't it? He would be that person, but you need somebody that is going to actually be able to coordinate it all and put everything together and make sure it comes to a coherent plan, don't you? That's what you need.
Yeah, because the emergency plan coordinator would need to give a contact number for the likes of Holbeach and
Exactly.
Holbeach Bank, because although we're in the centre of town, you may have an emergency out there, and I know they're fairly self-sufficient, but they still need to let everybody know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, but
We agreed on that then, Jan?
We'll give it one last shot to see whether we can get 2 people. If we can't, then we're going to have to probably bring it under this umbrella, and we as a committee get it started,
Yeah.
and then once it's done, then it can be sort of babysat by somebody else then maybe,
Yeah.
because we're going to have to do it, aren't we?
Yeah.
well, yeah.
We can't not
Keeps
do
coming
it.
up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right, Peter, off to speeding.
Okay, well, on the drive there is my usual monthly splurge. I'll just quickly take you through that.
Can you do it by agenda item?
Of course, yeah.
It has to be, has to
Yeah,
strictly
so in
follow
terms
the
of-
agenda item.
In terms of where we are with the city, it's currently outside the school in Boston Road. It was up at Holbeach Bank for 2.5 weeks. So that's moved up there. I had a very interesting chat with one of the locals. I was up a post putting out as you are, and two people came from my house and asked me, of course, what I'm doing, explained what was happening, and they were really pleased that actually something was beginning to happen. Apparently, a gentleman, I think it was at 73 Boston Road, apparently some years ago actually offered to move the SID around with charging himself, but for problems of insurance and risk, etc., he wasn't allowed to. So I explained what that was. I explained also the wider strategy we're trying to put in terms of presence. So the SID's up there, went up there on Sunday. It'll be there for 2 weeks and I'll move it along. I've also put a blanking mounting plate down at Fairfields on the Sporting Road as well, where there was one missing. The rest of the report as it is there. The additional SID we come on to, no we won't. But just to thank the Finance Committee really for supporting the additional funding subject to approval later in the year aligning with district funding to get us a second SID at the end of the year, if not early next, so we can have one in town and one out of town. Details of recent SID deployments and volumes and speeds are in my report there, and a growing list of other requests are being followed up as well. So that's an update on current placements and the speeding report. There's some rather frightening figures in there, particularly when outside William Stipley School. So agenda item B, this follows on from some earlier work that we did last year with LCC regarding the 50 mile/h speed limit imposed between Shepperstow and Hollis Drove. There is still a desire for Parishioners down there to get that further reduced. So I'd like to agree that we're requesting collaboration with Watford Parish Council, a further Archer survey on B1166 between Shepperstow and Hollis Drove to further monitor the traffic, to then put in a further request to LCC to reconsider the speed limit down there and a reduction to 40 miles an hour.
Fair enough.
The reason for that is Shepperstow is 40 and Hollis Drove is 40, so actually it will calm the traffic all the way through that whole section.
What's the distance between the two?
Distance between the two, probably just short of a mile.
Yeah, I think you're right then.
But there are along that stretch, there's Broadgate from Poplar Drove, there's Top Drove North, Top Drove South, and another drove that's got a fabulous coach park on it, and there's also 4 private properties along there with private drives that come straight onto the road. So, you know, there's a fair amount of crossing traffic and entering traffic on a piece of road that takes traffic for everything from 44-ton HGVs to horses. So there's a very, very wide mix of use of that road, so it just makes sense. The first stage of that is for us to request, in collaboration with Watford, that we do an Archer survey. I did have a conversation with the clerk at Watford some months ago, and he suggested quite rightly that we wait until the lockdown is lifted, because then traffic volumes will be back to what they consider to be normal. And if we do get lockdown lifted at the end of July, then of course now is the right time to begin to ask for that.
With traffic, it's already non-lockdown at the moment, it's dreadful out there.
It is. So we happy to do that, is that?
If you're proposing that,
Yeah.
could I have a seconder, please?
Yeah.
Everybody agreed?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well done,
Thank you.
Thank you. And to item C, out of the back of that work, and also the work that I've been doing with August and John, it's become quite apparent that the application of speed limits is rather hit and miss, despite the fact that LCC have got a policy about it. And I've looked at the policy, there's actually a copy on the drive. Last reviewed in 2015, so it's 6.5 years old now. All it seems to focus on is average speed and volume of traffic. It seems to take in no account of the local geographic issues of development, of numbers of entrances and exits, particularly private drives. And that was what killed the 40 mile an hour request on the 1166 last time. So I think the LCC's policy needs to be reviewed. And going into point D, I think, and I'd like us to agree to write to LCC asking for, or at least to initiate, a review of their speed limit policy so that we can bring some consistency across the parish. Quite often I hear from parishioners that there are 40 mile an hour limits in some places which just don't make sense, and other places where it's 60, where similarly 40 would be more appropriate, where common sense comes in rather than just the black and white of the policy.
Peter, can I ask, are you in contact with the head of highways at all?
Probably not the head of highways, but I'm in regular contact with one of their technical highways managers, Graham Butler.
Richard Baker. It might be an idea to ask him for a meeting. He came round the area about 3 years ago, and we had a meeting with him, and we took him round. He was visiting various areas, but we asked if he would come to Fleet around that area, and we actually took him round and showed our concerns, one of which was the junction of Lowgate. But he's very good, and you point it out to him and he sort of looks and said, and then he takes notes. So might be worth contacting him.
Okay, thank you. Because obviously in the back of the report, you say I've now got a growing list of areas where parishioners have raised concerns. And
Well, this is it.
Yeah, indeed some of those have come through our PCSO as well. So, you know, a meeting with PCSO and him and a few others might actually...
Yeah, because I mean, it's all very well for them sitting up in Lincoln.
Yes,
One coat fits all, but it doesn't.
No, very much. And to be honest, that's the point of the policy review there. You know, the policy is that one coat that fits all, but actually, where you've got a mix of town and rural, it simply doesn't. You know, what is appropriate for town is not necessarily appropriate for rural, and vice versa.
And
So-
us down in South Holland seem to be the forgotten corner. Yeah.
Try living in the bottom Holwich Road. Yes, if I'd like to propose that we write to them as well.
Seconder?
Yeah.
Does everybody agree?
Yep.
Okay, and point E and point F, they're kind of one and the same thing. Again, following on from an email that Councillor Nigel Pepper, the district, has had concerns over the speed of traffic through Holwich Road, and the fact that, again, speed limits are fairly inappropriate. Councillor Pepper has recommended that we look to set up a community speed watching area, and that would need council support. So I'd like to propose that we try.
Seconder?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. Now, obviously, what we let them do is reach out to the parishioners down there. We need probably half a dozen people to set up that group. There will be some training required.
It shows we're doing something, and
Exactly,
if they don't want to do it, then
And at the end of the day, as I found with Hawkins and John, I suggested 4 times they set up a speed watch group. They got no response whatsoever. So it shows that we are taking proactive action to try and deal with parishioners'
Well,
concerns.
June Whitburn does the speed awareness training. She normally does it at Castle Green Sports Centre. My husband's already done the training, and so did a couple of others in the area. The only thing is the fact that the cost of your high-vis and the gun, etc., can be quite pricey. And if you've got a parish council that's paid out for it, they're very at odds to share it. And also the fact that you shouldn't be doing the speed watch in your own area, because there has been repercussions where a motorist might recognise somebody and so they do actually advise that should you have a speed watch team, you liaise with another and you do a round robin, if you like.
Okay, at the end of it, we would take all of the advice of those experts that have done it before,
Yeah.
and because reducing risk to the public, of course, is a paramount.
Well, this is it, yeah.
Okay,
But,
Is it- Has everyone agreed on that?
yeah, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll go back to Nigel and sort that. And item F was the request of LCC the installation of 2 suitable post extensions so that we can deploy the SID within the 40-mile limit of Holwich Road. I've identified a couple of possible signs that we can add an extension to at points where I know the speeds are a little bit silly. So if we could approve that, I'll propose that.
What's the invitation? Is there a cost?
There isn't. I can have a word with Graham at LCC.
Right.
He put two extensions in Holby at
Right.
St John's for me,
Okay.
free gratis, because he was concerned that they're there. So I've had Graham down at Holby Road as well. He knows the area well. That's actually a fairly good news story. I've got a good relationship with him now. So in terms of getting those new locations, it's simply an email to him to say, look, I'd like to put one here with a little Google map and a photograph, and he's quite happy to approve those. And you'll see some of those are actually marked down in the SID spreadsheet I've got where it's just LCC approved YouTube other.
So have you proposed that, Peter?
Yep.
The second, anyone?
I'll second it based on the fact that we don't need to put any money towards it.
Yeah, we'll always second one.
Yeah.
That's good.
Does everybody agree?
Yeah.
Right, well done, Peter, and again, a very, very thorough report and speeding. Don't know where you get the time from. Thank you.
I don't sleep much.
Right, last couple of bits now, items of discussion and agenda items requests.
Yeah, I need, on our next planning meeting, I need to have more of the leases for discussion and agreement as to terms of the lease. I think there's 3, if not 4, that we need to deal with.
Jen, what sort of timescale are we talking about for more stuff to go into you?
Sorry?
If we need to put more stuff on the agenda for the next meeting?
But it depends when you want your next
Well, I think the
meeting.
next meeting should be the day after the finance meeting, on every Tuesday, once a month, because it's a week before the council meeting.
Yeah, but it doesn't give me,
Work.
you need your meeting midway through to facilitate
Tonight.
the planning.
Yeah,
Week before the finance meeting.
because then
Yeah.
if we do it that way,
Yeah,
then we can agree the planning applications at our full council meeting,
yeah.
and then 2 weeks later agree another set, because else we miss some, don't we? Because
Yeah.
they've already gone beyond the date that before we can get to our next full council.
Well, that's fine, we'll say.
Also, if you have your meeting after the finance, then anything that you want to put to full council has to go,
Yeah,
not
true.
to the next meeting, but the one after that, because the agendas already have to be set.
No, the week before, like we did it tonight, is probably best, isn't it?
Right, so the next, so the next finance meeting is the 2nd of August, so that should be your meeting the 27th of, Tuesday the 27th of July. Is that happy with everybody?
Yep.
Same place, same time.
Looks like it.
Mm-hmm.
Are we all done? Is there anything else?
So you wanted to ask me one question,
Just
meeting.
got
When do I want the things
Yeah.
through? So,
Anything for discussion in by?
can I have them by the 19th midday, please?
And reports as well, yeah?
The reports, if you could have the reports all on there by on the Friday before, that gives members the weekend to digest.
Yeah, okay. I was a bit late this week, so I apologise. Right, is there anything else? We don't have any other business on here, but if anyone wants to say anything.
Yes, just maybe one thing for the next agenda. Obviously, the distribution of consultations for planning is done by email at the moment. I don't know how comfortable people are with that, but it means a lot of email comes into the inbox and sometimes gets lost in volume. I did a little bit of playing around on Teams. You might notice that Peter's team in the tenant, whereby what we could do is use one of the facilities of Microsoft Teams, which we all have access to essentially send planning applications emails to a team that will appear in a social media style channel, whereby we can interrogate the original email because it's literally copy and pasted into the team channel. We are also able to use the hyperlinks. So whereas a PDF at the moment you can't hyperlink, you'll get the ability to hyperlink straight out and look at the South Holland website. But more importantly, it's got the ability to comment on that email. So we would end up with an audit trail of approvals, objections, comments that could all be consolidated into one place within that team. That would mean I'd have to sit and maybe I'd have to show people how to use Teams a little bit because it is a different technology. If you're used to social media, it should be reasonably easy to pick up. Maybe I'd like to discuss that a little more next time around. I know you play with it as well, don't you?
I've played with it a bit, yeah. Would you like that to go on the full council for the 12th?
If we just do it for our committee, then
Probably best coming here
Yeah.
first.
Okay.
What I suggest is that we have a play with it first.
Maybe the rest
how
of
it
the
works.
committees will take up as well then, I
Yeah, see how it works for us and then take it to full council, then to roll it out.
Yeah, good idea. Are we happy? Ish? Yeah. Okay, meeting finished. Thanks very much.